on the topic Data Science and Artificial Intelligence as your career goal. Today we have with us an eminent personality as a resource person for the session, Neelab Nishal. Mr. Neelab Nishal is a technology graduate and a master's in management from Tier 1 Institute of India. He is passionate about technology, automobiles, coaching, and educating, and fishing for information out of an ocean of data. He works as a full time marketing professional and he takes pride in guiding and coaching college students both in engineering and management. He serves as a judge at SAE Bajaj India's biggest extravaganza of college students. His passion for driving meaningful business decisions from data drew him to R and Python. Sir, it is indeed a pleasure in having you for the session. So I hand over the session to you. Before that, to all the participants, kindly mute yourself and on your camera throughout the session. And if you have any queries regarding the session, you may ask the resource person after the session gets over. Sir, over to you, and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good evening to all of you. As ma'am requested, you can mute your cameras, but I'll request you to keep open your, mute your mics, but I request you to keep open your cameras so that it doesn't become very lonely for me over here. These are difficult times and we have all resorted to different means to overcome, and this digital platform is certainly one of them. Though human interaction has no substitute. So if I can see all of you, it will feel like I'm with you in person. So without taking much of your time, we will start with today's session. And today's session is about data science and artificial intelligence, that as your career goal. So as aspiring scientists, aspiring professionals, how much or how can you bet on making data science and machine learning as your full-time career? Well, I like to commend all of you that you guys are here. I wish when we were young, we had such opportunities, such platforms to connect with professionals and have guidance on career aspects. So without taking much of your time, I'll start with today's session. I'll be sharing my presentation with you here. All of you can see my presentation screen over here.
Yes, yes.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So let us start with our today's session, data science and artificial intelligence as your career goal. Before understanding that, let me introduce myself. So friends, my name is Neelab Nishal. I'm the author of book Python Made Easy. I run marathons, I do long distance cycling, and almost all things which are fun. I request all of you to have fun and enjoy this session, because as soon as we stop having fun, we stop learning things. And I'm super excited to meet you all today. So during today's session, we'll see why do we need data science? Why is it important after all? What is data science and how can you become a data scientist? Then we'll also have a quick look on what tools does data scientist use. And then we'll get introduced to machine learning and artificial intelligence. And we'll also see about what are the career opportunities in data science and related fields. So why do we need data science? Let's see this conversation between two people. Someone was coming to office and they got stuck in the traffic. They couldn't reach office on time. And what was the justification? That there were multiple routes. They could have taken any route, but the route which they took might be the shortest route. There was too much traffic on that. And their wishful thinking was, they wished that if there was something which could have helped them, told them on which route there will be high traffic, on which route there will be less traffic. Say this was a time before Google Maps or navigation era. Now, though you guys are, I hope, are not using or having mobiles, but you all must have been introduced to these applications, Google Maps, Apple Maps, and other navigation tools. How things have changed from paper maps to electronic, digital, and customizable Google Maps. Now you can see in the center of this picture, there are two routes. One route is 4.9 kilometers, but it will take you longer time to reach from point A to point B. And the other route, which is longer than that, almost a kilometer longer, but still it will take lesser time. How is Google Maps helping us over here? They are using the data of all the users who are using Android phones and traveling on that route. So that data gets populated in the backend on Google servers, and that calculation or that data analysis provides you with this map, which gives you blue lines, yellow lines, and red lines, telling you where the traffic is heavier, where the traffic is lighter, and where there is medium traffic. So this is one example of where data science is being used. This is one such field where data science has disrupted the market. Like, it has altogether changed our habit. What is a disruption after all? When some innovation, some new product or some new technology comes and it changes the habit of users altogether. This is one such technology. Now I have not seen paper maps apart from my daughter's school class anywhere else. Earlier, we all used to carry paper maps. You guys might not have even seen those times. But that is not the only place where data science is used. Data science is very heavily used in healthcare industry. In fact, this is one of the industries which uses data science most proactively. The drugs discovery, you all must be hearing about the coronavirus and its vaccination. So the kind of themes which are emerging in discovery of a kind of drug, data science and its related fields are very, very heavily used in the background. They are used for genomics. Genomics is science of studying about genomes and our genetic system. They are also used by hospitals, or rather healthcare industry. They use data science to predict for which season, what kind of diseases, what kind of facilities will be needed more, what kind of professionals will be needed more, what kind of medicines will be required more. So all those kind of things, data science is useful for healthcare industry. In the right side of your screen, you will be seeing a X-ray. If any of you might have an unfortunate incidents where they would have needed an X-ray. Earlier, X-rays were taking like a photo film. They were developed on a film, and it used to take half days or a full day time. So when the doctor says you to get an X-ray done, you will be able to consult him again the next day. But now the technology is such that digital X-rays are available, similar to digital photographs. And those photos are available to the doctors immediately. And at times, even when you are not around, like say, for example, you are in a village, you met an accident. Now technologies are available by which the doctor will advise you a certain X-ray. You will get that X-ray done in your village or nearby, and the doctor is sitting in Mumbai, and he will see your X-ray on his mobile phone, tablet, or laptop. Here also, data science plays a big role, because all the data points which the X-ray camera captures are transmitted and again realigned in the same fashion to give the same picture. This is very similar to digital photography. So in short, we need data science for pattern discovery. I'll come to what pattern discovery is to make it simpler to you. This is also used for predictive analysis and decision making. So these are the three major themes for which data science is used. Now, pattern discovery is something which is very, very commonly used, and you all must have seen. Like if you order something on Amazon, you will see that Amazon later on will keep showing you similar items as recommendation. Now, Amazon doesn't know that you like a certain kind of mug or a certain kind of book or a certain kind of tool or a shampoo or soap for that matter. But what Amazon knows is people like you means people from localities like you, people from demography like you, people from your age group. If they are buying one certain product, if they are also buying another things, and if they are buying it, you also might be interested. So they match that pattern. That is pattern discovery. There are much bigger roles also for pattern discovery, but it will be in domain of machine learning. Similarly, even in elections, there are companies which provide with patent discovery and user data to the electorals. Then there is predictive analysis. Now, what is predictive analysis? The word is very easygoing. Predicting any future outcome is predictive analysis, like weather forecast. When I was a child, I very fondly used to think of my playtime. So after school, we certainly used to go to play outdoors. We loved outdoor sports. So if in the afternoon or lunch period it was cloudy, our predictive analysis said it most probably will rain and we will not have the opportunity to play cricket. So we used to plan what will we play. It was not like that in our times that if it rains, we'll not play. So that was our predictive analysis. We didn't use any computers, any machines for that. And we all do that in our mind. Similar predictive analysis is done in business also. So if a company sells shoes and they want to predict how much shoes will they sell in future, in next 10 years, they will do a sales forecast. That is also kind of predictive analysis. You all must have heard of electrical vehicles and all kind of predictions around electrical vehicles, like how many electrical vehicles are going to come in future. That is also predictive analysis. Nobody knows what's going to happen in future. So nobody is for sure. Nobody is very certain. But past data and the analysis doing a prediction on that gives you a near certain picture. Then comes decision making. While driving a car, very common, simple decisions we all take in split seconds. If someone is coming in front of us, we apply brake. If the road is empty, we put car in speed and accelerate it. When there is a red light, we all stop. Similarly, there are now autonomous cars. Autonomous cars means the cars which do not need a driver to run. Those cars, how do they take decisions? So they rely on data science and algorithms running behind them to take those decisions. So data science is going to give you a decision-making ability. It gives you the information whether you should take a left turn, right turn, go straight, and many such things for an autonomous car. For other things, similar decisions are made by using this data science. Now we saw why is data science required. Let's see what is data science. So there are so many words on your screen right now. They are interchangeably used for different data science domains like data mining, predictive analytics, data engineering, visualization, big data, segmentation, statistics, all those things. I hope you do not get overwhelmed by that. Because in day-to-day life, we all make decisions using data analytics and its systems. Only thing is, we use the only supercomputer every one of us have, our mind, to do that. So our mind is also a computer which computes different data points available to us. Let's see one of the simple decisions that we all make. This boy over here, after completing his school, he is thinking of which institute shall I select for my engineering. So think in your mind, have he made any decision yet? Well, yes, he has made at least one decision that he will do engineering. So one thing is clear for him. Now he has to decide which institute shall he select. He will have some options for that. So like the way he has thought of engineering, he will see which institute offers the course of his choice. If the institute doesn't offer, then he will move to another college. So yes side means that those all institutes offer the course of his choice. Then he will look at, is the college ranked among the top 5 colleges in the country? He's certainly a intelligent or smart guy who could crack an admission process to those colleges, and he's entitled to think in that line that I will go only in top 5 colleges in the country. And that is also a decision point for him. So what data does he need? Now he needs which colleges are ranked how. And by that, he will come to know whether a particular college is going to fall in the list of top 5 colleges or not. That is another decision he took. Then he will decide, or he will take a decision based on the fact what is the average package after he finishes his degree from that college. And based on that, he finally selects a college. Now you see, this is a similar kind of process data analysis takes. And this is nothing but data analysis. We all do this kind of analysis day in, day out. Why I'm presenting this to you is that this word and allied fields should not incite any kind of fear or uncertainty in your mind, because now we are only going to use machines to take data decision with larger amount of data. The process will more or less remain the same. Like in this process, his mind took at least 4 decisions. Number 1, he will select engineering. Number 2, he will select a particular course. He will select a particular college, and he will select a particular list of college, and then which particular college will he select. So all these decisions he took based on data, not randomly. So data science is the tool or a field of study which enables you to first ask the right questions. Till now what we have seen, that data science gives you answers. But trust me, my friends, to start with the process of getting the right answer in data science, you need to know what is the right question to ask. And that is very important. That theme will emerge again and again in my presentation, and then find answers to those questions. This is simple. There is no rocket science in knowing that. You all know that. But how does data science do it? Like if you read books on Kindle, if you'll notice, after your one book is finished, Kindle will suggest you another book. We already saw the example of fastest route on Google Maps. You all must be watching videos on YouTube. So while watching those videos, YouTube gives you advertisements, and YouTube understands from the type of videos you are seeing what kind of advertisements you would be interested in. And those advertisements YouTube shows to you. There are algorithms which are very difficult to understand running behind it. When I say difficult to understand, don't think that I am talking about school students or people like me. They are difficult to understand even to the scientists who are working in YouTube itself. So these are very advanced algorithms, but nevertheless, they are based on the same principles of data science and machine learning. So let's see the process of data science. I told you the first thing which comes to data science is asking right question. Asking right question is very, very important. After that, you explore the data. Well, I'm sorry to say after that, because though explore the data comes after asking the right question in my slide, it's not always so. At times when we do not know anything about that data or know very less about that, we first explore the data, and that data exploration tells us which questions to ask by finding patterns in the data. Every data has some patterns. So when you explore the data, you find some patterns in the data, and those patterns are used to decision making. Once you have made a decision, or once you have found a pattern in the data, you will have a data story or a decision story to tell. That is the final thing. You will tell it to whomsoever is your stakeholder or whomsoever you are going to present it to. I'll give you an example which you can all relate to. Like you guys are in school. Your sports teacher gives you a project that you go through scores of last 10 cricket games played by Indian cricket team. And you tell me who are the best batsmen, who are the best bowlers, and who is the best fielder. So by that data, see, now you have a data set. By that data, here the teacher asked you the questions already. Now you will explore that data. You will see which batsman made how many runs. And it is not about one match. It is about, say, 10 or 15 matches. So you will take average of how much run different batsmen made. One batsman might have made 1 century and played not so well in another 9 matches. And someone might have not made any century, but played half centuries in 6 matches. So in that aspect, you will analyze that data and find the patterns. How a batsman has scored runs consistently, how many wickets a bowler has taken. And then you will come to a decision, who was the best batsman, who was the best bowler, who was the best fielder. And when you have come to this conclusion, then you have a story to tell. It's not done. You cannot just go and tell this was the best batsman, this was the best bowler. People will not appreciate. Then you will have a story to tell which people will understand that I did this, and the process revealed that by this matrix, by seeing the average run scored, this batsman was the best batsman. By seeing the least number of run given per wicket, this bowler was the best bowler, and so on and so forth. Now, a very pertinent question. You understood what is data science, but we are all here to understand what it takes for you to become a data scientist. Again, I'll go through a step-by-step process. So to become a data scientist, you need to have an understanding of data. Now you guys are in school, and few of these points you might not be able to very easily relate to. So don't bother about it. But I'll also try to make it easier for you. Now, what is data? You all must have gone through tables with columns and rows during your studies. In your textbooks also, there would be tables which will tell you, say, countries and their capitals, or places in India, states and their crops, their diets, all kind of information. They are stored in table. All those tables are tabular data. They have rows and columns. Similarly, list of photographs is visual data. Sound which you hear is audio data. All this is data. Now in digital age, everything can be broken down into numbers. This might sound like a very far-fetched thing to you, but this is actually happening. All your photographs which you click on your mobile, when your computer reads them, the computer reads them as numbers. And today my this session might not allow me to show you all that, but if I get an opportunity sometime, or you can visit my website and look for things like that, you will find that such pictures are represented in terms of data only. Each and every pixel of that picture is one number, and hence the entire picture is a set of data. So if you understand things which are represented in number forms or in tabular forms, you understand data. That is what I mean by understanding of data. Then you have to understand the algorithm's logic. Now, algorithm is something you might have studied in your computer science. Even if you have not, don't worry about it. Not yet, at least. I'll give you a simple example of what kind of logic am I talking about. You all must have studied basic algorithm, algebra and arithmetic. You all know what even numbers are and odd numbers are. Now think in your mind, what is an even number and what is an odd number? Now also think how an even number is different from an odd number. I give you a list of numbers. Say I give you 100 numbers, random numbers, not 1 to 100, any random numbers. And I tell you to identify which numbers are even and which numbers are odd. You are not supposed to go through the list of all numbers, read and see whether that number is even or odd. But just by using some method, you have to tell me a method by which you will identify the number is even or odd. What method will come to your mind? Before telling you the method, this is the process, or this is the way you think about solving any problem. You have a problem and you think about how to solve it. Getting my point? So I'll give you 1 minute's time to think in your mind that how are we going to identify whether a number is even number or odd number, right? So you guys able to think about what I told? What is an even number and what is a odd number? I'm not going to ask you guys over here. It will be a fish market after all, after that. So you all must be knowing what you are thinking in your mind. And let me tell you what I thought. So I'll divide that number by 2. And if I get a remainder, which is not 0, then that number is odd number. And if I get a remainder, which is 0, you will come to know this is a even number. Now, this is what an algorithm is in simple terms. Algorithm will ask to divide that number, and in the similar way, their logic works. If the remainder comes to 0, it's an even number. Otherwise, it's an odd number. If you write this logic in steps, that will become your algorithm. So algorithm is not a difficult thing to understand. Only thing is, with the complexity, when the complexity of the problem increases, the algorithms also become more and more complex. This was a very simple problem. If I ask you to find a much more difficult thing, even in mathematical terms, you'll find a difficult kind of algorithm to solve that. But you'll be able to solve that if you have logical ability. So that is what is again required to become a data scientist. Understanding of programming. Now, I do not expect all of you to understand programming right now, but if you want to become a data scientist, you have to do some or other kind of programming. I will come to that in the later part of today's session, that what kind of programming is more suitable than the other and how we can learn that. Then understanding of statistics. Statistics is nothing but field of maths which gives some meaning to data, some more meaning to data, I'll rather say. And I'll leave it at that right now. Some examples of statistics are means or averages. Like if you sum 5 numbers and divide them by 5, you'll get the average of those numbers. So that kind of things are statistics. And then understanding of business domain. By business domain, I mean to say, we'll go back to the cricket example. If you do not know what the game of cricket is and you understand only football, then you'll not be able to crack that question immediately. You'll not be able to understand where in the scorecard the runs came, how are the runs different from goals if you understand only football. So the business domain over here is understanding of cricket. I gave you example of cricket because in India, cricket is a popular game. If I would have given you example of, say, golf or baseball, you might have more difficulty in dealing with that because there your business domain knowledge is lesser. So to understand and solve a problem, some amount of business domain knowledge is also required. So these are the things which you require to become a data scientist. Understanding of data, understanding of logic, understanding of programming, and understanding of statistics. Then some amount of understanding of business domain. And this is how a data science set can be summed up. Mathematics, computer science, and domain expertise, when all these three come together, it becomes data science, right? Till now, whatever we have seen were more logical approach to becoming a data scientist. But a more intrinsic, inherent approach is these abilities, these things which you have to develop if you are not having these. Otherwise, you'll never become a good data scientist. But rather than saying this negatively, I'll say this positively as, if you develop these three things, you will become a good data scientist irrespective of all other things. The first thing is curiosity. If you are curious enough, if you look at things and you immediately start asking questions, you are curious. And that is a very important aspect of a data scientist. Then you have to have common sense. Now it's a cliche, a saying that common sense is not the most common thing. And I found it very true. So common sense is required for a data scientist. And then communication skills. When you find something as a data scientist, you need to communicate it. So communication skills. So if you have these three basic things, trust me, you can become a very good data scientist. And not only a data scientist, even a person or a professional further in this field. Now, we have seen what is a data scientist. What does he do? Let us see what tools does a data scientist use. And by tools, because data science is a digital or computer related phenomena, these tools will not be physical tools. There will be no hammers. There will be no chisels. There will be no bat and ball even. Huh? So these are only different kind of softwares which data scientists use. And I'm calling them tools. Before going there, let me show you what different kind of roles are there so that we can understand what different kind of tools, different kind of roles use. These are all different kind of roles in data science field. I'll just read names of them. Data scientist, data engineer, data analyst, statistician, data administrator, business analyst, and data analytics manager. These are all more or less related to data science in more than one ways. But at the same time, these are different business or professional domains. They are people who are expert in one or more of them and perform some tasks. Broadly, they can be clubbed in these three domains: data analyst, artificial intelligence or machine learning engineer, and data scientist. Data analyst, as you can see in this figure, is more about analyzing data. However, machine learning engineer or artificial intelligence engineer is more about creating things. They are creating some new things. And data scientist, which is a more of an umbrella domain, is a combination of both. So what are the tools they use? These are the different tools which a data analyst uses: Python, Power BI, SQL, C, R, C++, Tableau, HTML. And a data engineer uses somewhat different tools: SAS, Java, SQL is common, Perl, Ruby, Hive, R, MATLAB, C++, and Python. Don't worry if you have not heard any one of these names. Don't worry at all. Trust me, few years back, even I had not heard even one of these names, because these are a very business specific or a domain specific tools. So if you do not know them, no shame there. Yeah, but it will be difficult if you do not understand these and try to learn data science, because you have to use them, some of them at least. And as a data scientist, again, you have to use these tools. Apache is a new thing here. Apache Spark and SQL, R, MATLAB, and Python is the common thing. So which tool is common among three of these? I have shown you only three. There were more than 6 or 7 different domains. And if you'll look at the tools which all of them are using, only Python comes as the most common tool for all of them. So Python, though it is the name of a snake and more commonly known like that, but Python here is a computer programming language which is used for all kind of computer programming and all kind of computer softwares. But for data science and machine learning, this is the best tool or the most commonly used programming language in the world. Let's see, what does a data scientist do? We saw this all step by step. Just go through these lines. He will ask the right questions. Then he will gather the data from multiple sources. He will process that data. He will feed that data into the analytical system or machine learning algorithm. Now, feed the data in the system means there has to be a system. And as you saw earlier, the machine learning people were making something inside the brain. So they make these kind of systems, the machine learning algorithms, and then prepare and show that result. This is a snapshot of the process of how it is done. We will not get much into the detail, but let us understand this process in very simple terms. You all now understand what a business understanding is. Data mining. Now, data mining confuses people at times. So to keep things in perspective, let me ask you a simple question and answer it to yourself first. What do you get when you do coal mining or gold mining?
We'll get gold and gold.
Exactly.
Gold.
So in mining, you get the thing you're mining for. If you are mining for sand, you will get sand. If you're mining for gold, you will get gold. So what will you get in data mining? You will get data. So data mining, that's why I said data mining confuses people a bit. But if you understand this, that if you mine data, you will get data. Or if you mine for data, you are getting data. Why do we need that? All this process, all this data science and data analysis and machine learning is based on how much data do you have. And this nowadays has become so important because now we are generating so much data. I'll give you a fun fact. Like now in one day, we are generating more data than we have generated in last 100 years. Trust me on that. In one day now we are generating so much data since last few years, which we have not generated in last 100 years put together. So data mining or getting that data is comparatively easier now. Now we get data much easily. Imagine if a scientist had to do some data analysis in 1950, there was no internet, there was no Excel tables, there was no such heavy duty computers. All data was in registers, papers, different kind of systems. At that time, data mining was a much difficult tool, and they used to do it. There are studies for much before that, when people used to do data analysis, even before computers. So data mining now is much easier with advent of computers and internet. Then data cleaning. When you get data, the data is not always clean. How do I make you understand data is not clean? Say when you mine for any mineral, you do not get that mineral in the usable form. When you mine for gold, you do not get only gold. You have to clean the entire ore and get the gold out. Similarly, the data which you got, you have to clean it to get the meaningful data out. Just try to understand it by that perspective. When you see some real life data, you'll understand what I'm saying. Then you explore that data and do feature engineering on that. These are the steps. And then you visualize or you make charts and graphs out of that data. And that is how a data scientist works. Now we are coming to a very interesting aspect of data science, machine learning. Now the name machine learning, oops, I played some wrong slide. This is some movie, I guess. Which movie is it?
Terminator.
Oh, Terminator. So you guys have seen this movie, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a
Yeah.
boring.
So this is Terminator 2, The Judgment
But
Day.
after seeing that movie, everyone is thinking that AI is like very dangerous and everyone thinks it's very
Right,
bad.
right.
But in reality, AI is very useful. And with AI only they make all this game.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel
So you guys
awesome.
already know much about AI. I'll ask you a simple question. If you
Sir?
have seen this movie, what this boy is doing?
This boy is touching on the metal surface of that Terminator.
That is very visible from the picture, and you are very smart that way.
Yeah.
But what is the boy doing in this movie? What this scene signifies?
This scene is like he's checking on the hardness and like he's checking on his software.
No. He's not trying to touch or see his software. Let me explain. So if you watch this movie, in this scene, just before this scene, the Terminator, who is a machine, has shot a guy, and the boy was afraid that the machine will kill someone. So the boy is teaching the machine over here that he will not kill anyone. And in the next scene, the boy is teaching the machine to play a game. Why am I showing you this? Because we are talking about machine learning.
Ma'am,
Machine
I
is
forgot,
learning.
like these machines have all sorts of patterns and they learn also different ways of learning patterns and the learning styles and all. Like there is some machines might be having this shadow pattern. Like one, we will move the same way the machine will move, and some machines will be like we'll be showing something. They will do that thing when required. Like we want.
I really love what you're saying. I really love that. What you're talking about is there are some machines nowadays used even in households which do the sweeping or the brooming thing, and they move in and they look at the objects and they change their path. So the way you said, machine will look at the shadows and move. Yes, these kind of machines are there, and we are talking about those kind of things only where the machine learns. But the point is, in that kind of machine, the machine is already programmed. The machine is not learning. The machine is programmed that if you find an object in front of you, there is a camera or a sensor. If you find the object in front of you, move left or right or go somewhere. Do not collide. Do not touch that object. The machine is not learning there. But there are machines which learn. Like this robot in this movie, he was learning. He was learning new things. The same way this kid is learning. Or all of you, or rather all of us, learned when we were kids. How we learned when we were kids? We used to play with toys, and we learned by identifying shapes, colors, and then touching things. I've not shown here, but we also used to put our thumb in our mouth. Whatever comes to our hand, we put in our mouth. So By doing different things, by shapes, colors, touch, and feel of the object, we learn about things and even taste. So when you give a child a mirchi, a pepper, and he bites it, he or she will never bite that pepper again because they learn that this is bitter. It burns. So that is how a child learns, by doing things. When they grow up,
Okay.
they learn.
And before you proceed, I want to tell that robots could learn things more faster than us. So, like if you make a robot and upload files on the robot, like lot of things, maybe a robot could learn hand-to-hand combat, then cooking, then sweeping, all the household stuff, and maybe even shooting. That to all of that in one day, if the software are files are made and even uploaded into
Memory of the computer. What you're saying is basically we teach computer or we tell computer what to do. Machine learning is exactly doing the opposite, not the same. If imagine if you keep on doing the same thing with the computer, we do not put computer programs in the child's mind. Hence, it is said that to teach a robot what a 6 months old child, imagine 6 months old child, it will take years of programming to teach that robot what a 6 months old child does. So imagine if you want to make a robot which does the household things, it has to have more intelligence than a 6 months child. We have to write programs for hundreds of years. We keep on writing programs and then only we'll be able to teach him that. That's a very difficult process. Hence, now computers or the machines are taught to learn by themselves. The way a grown-up person learns by looking at emotions of other people, facial expressions of other people, hands movement of different people. You also learn that this kind of hand movement means something. This kind of gesture means something. This kind of gesture means something else. Those kind of things, a computer also is learning, or the machine also is learning by seeing, by looking, by different means. I'll show you how. I'll show you. These are the different attributes or different ways in which a human being learns. We learn by language, by movements, by posture, by facial expressions, by the words someone says, and even by the words someone doesn't say, but it looks on their face, their emotions. Similarly, here, there is a computer. Look at the screen now. There is a computer, and listen to what I'm saying, trying to understand what I'm saying exactly. The computer is fed with only two kinds of photographs. One is of a cat and one is of a dog. The cat's photo, computer is told by writing a code that this is a cat. And for the dog's photo, the computer is told again by writing a code that this is a dog. So in layman words, the computer is told, hey, computer, this is a cat. Hello, computer, this is a dog. And now the computer identifies what is a cat, what is a dog. Then the computer is fed with hundreds and thousands of such pictures. So you take hundreds of different cat pictures, not one cat, different cats pictures, and give it to computer and tell him these are the cats. And then you give him hundreds and thousands of different dogs pictures and tell them this is a dog. And it will go through different processes in the computer like here. And then the computer will learn to identify by looking at the photo, not by telling now, by looking at the photo, whether the photo is of a cat or a dog. And then when the machine has learned or the computer has learned, when it has become intelligent like you, then you are giving him a photo of a cat. And the computer will give you in the output, this is a cat. You see that? This small animation here shows that we are giving the computer a photo of a cat and the computer is identifying that this is a cat. Now the computer has learned by the thousands of pictures of cats and dogs you have given them. But imagine, you give them a picture of a pug. That is also a dog. You all understand what a pug is? If you don't, let me make it simpler for you. Yeah, pug is a dog which has a flat nose, and they used to use it for Vodafone ad. They used to follow the character everywhere. That was pug. So if you give the pug's photo, the computer might get confused because the computer is not a human being. He is not as smart as you are. So the computer will think its nose is like a cat, but its ear is like a dog. He might give a wrong answer. Similarly, if you give the computer a photo of a tiger, the computer might think it is a cat. So the computer will learn, but it will not become 100% accurate. Hence, there is accuracy in machine learning. Say if your model is very good, it will have accuracy of 99% or 95% or 97%. This accuracy means if my model is 95% accurate, then out of 100 pictures, 5 pictures the computer will tell wrong, and 95 pictures the computer will tell correctly. So this is how a machine learns. I'll show you some examples. There are 3 types of machine learning. We'll not get into the details of the names and what are these meaning. But if you see on the screen the photos, in the first picture, the computer is given some photos. Follow my cursor, my mouse. This is an input data, and computer is also told that they are apples. So these become label data. The data has labels or the data has information, and then the computer will later on predict what is an apple. In the second picture, computer was given just photographs. It was not told what are these. So the computer will never be able to predict that this is an apple. Computer will never tell you this is an apple. Only what computer will do is computer will cluster them differently, because computer still identifies that the apple looks different than an orange and the orange looks different than a banana. So the computer understands they are different things, but the computer doesn't know that what they are called. So it will cluster them. And this is supervised and unsupervised learning in machine learning. And then there is a most important kind of learning which is called reinforcement learning. In reinforcement learning, the computer plays some game. Like, why this game is not playing? Give me a moment.
But before you continue, I want to tell that in this game, when people are making games,
See,
they use one.
the computer is playing against the computer. So the computer, or it might play against a person also. So now the computer after some time will start learning that how this yellow dot eats me, and he will know how to avoid it. So in this kind of games, the computer plays or interacts with the environment and learns. This is a reinforcement kind of machine learning. Even human beings learn like that. When you are a kid, you get wet. By going out in rain, you understand, okay, if I go out in rain, I will get wet. So we keep on learning things by doing things. That is how computer are learning, by reinforcement learning. Now I'll show you this interesting photograph. On the left hand side is Garry Kasparov. He is one of the most popular players in chess, is a grandmaster and was world champion for a very, very long time. But then came a machine. The machine was IBM's made Deep Blue. In 1996 October to 1997 May, this Deep Blue computer defeated Garry Kasparov when he was a world champion. This computer defeated a chess world champion in the game humans created. Similarly, there is a much more complex game. This game is called Go. There is a world champion of Go, Lee Sedol. And Google made a software called AlphaGo. This software defeated Lee Sedol number of times. And now AlphaGo is the world champion of Go game. These are all old games, generations old games. Go is a very old game played in China, Korea. This is much more complex than chess. And still, now computers are defeating men at that by machine learning, by learning things, by reinforcement method of learning. Now you see, machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is beyond machine learning, but machine learning is inside artificial intelligence. We are not going to touch artificial intelligence per se today. It's a very vast and difficult subject to explain right now. But these are the steps. You learn data science, then you learn machine learning, and then you go into artificial intelligence. You cannot straight away go and learn artificial intelligence. So till now, what we have seen, what this field is, what kind of exciting things one can do by data science or machine learning. Let us see some career opportunities in data science and related fields. I'm not going to show you what are the jobs available, because every company will have a different kind of name for the job, but I'm going to show you what kind of salaries they pay. If you see, in USA, the entry level person gets close to $90,000 a year. In Indian terms, that is close to 50 lakhs. It's wrong to just multiply them by dollar into rupees, because it doesn't work that way. In India, you'll not get that much. But I'm just showing you the opportunity or the options available. So let's see how India fares. In the left, you have the job market of USA, and in the right, you have the job of India, and different kind of job roles. So what we have done over here, analytics manager, we have analyzed salary of analytics manager. So 1,000 or some analytics manager salaries, and business analyst salaries and business intelligence analyst salaries. These are all different kind of jobs in data science and data analysis. So if you see the salary range, it on the left starts somewhere from the say $50,000 mark or close to $40,000 mark in USA, and goes up to around $100,000 to $140,000. That's decently good amount of salary, and I do not think many fields pay this kind of salary nowadays. And this is a very upcoming booming field. This is only going to improve. Similarly, in India also, if you see, to start with, the salary ranges somewhere from 5 lakhs rupees and goes up to 25 lakhs and even more. That varies with experience and the way you learn or the things you learn. But this is a snapshot of what lies. So this is a summary of both of these. And you can see on your screen, in India, the salary, say for 10% average starts from 3 lakhs. The majority median gets 6 lakhs, and it goes up to 2 million, like 20 lakhs. That's per annum. And in USA, it starts from 63,000. Mean is 91,000. That is around 50 lakhs. And the highest salary range or the more range goes towards $130,000. So this is a very exciting field, and that is why people are paid so well. Not just because you have to learn so many things, but also because the utility is high. Almost all industries, almost all, you name an industry and you'll find a data science related domain over there. So this is now very wide reach. It is not like medicine. It is not like just engineering. It is not like mechanical engineering. It is not like civil engineering. It is not like art or any other field. Not art. Art is also very wide and having domain in everywhere. But there are fields which have a limited domain. Data science is now so wide that it is almost in every industry. Now, when you saw what are the career like in data science, what do you need to do that or to be there? So you can choose a tool or a language and stick to it for the time being. For you people in school or early level of college, and by school I mean from class 5th or 6th if you want to. If you want to start, you can understand, because the basics of learning, say I'm talking about Python over here, because Python is the most advanced and best knowledge language for data science, and also it's a very easy language. I learned Python recently. It's very easy. So the first language to start with can be Python. So if you are going to learn Python, stick with it, learn it well, and then jump to other languages. Take that approach.
Okay.
Let me finish. So once you choose a language, then take up a course. Now, in today's time on internet, there is no dearth of even free material available to learn. Only thing is, there is no clear-cut path. When I started learning, I faced the same problem. There's a problem of shortage of things. But in this case, the problem was the exact reverse. The problem was of abundance of knowledge available. So it was very difficult to identify where to read, what path to take. And hence, when I had some knowledge, had some insight, I used that insight and knowledge to serve and solve that problem, to bridge that gap. And hence I wrote my book, which gives a very clear-cut path from very beginning to intermediate level by simple steps, doable things. So take up a course and complete it. You can choose whatever course you want to. If you have chosen a language, Python, choose whatever course you want to, but complete it. Then focus on practical applications. Do not just focus on the theory learning part, because the theory you will forget very soon. If you practice it, it will stick. And at the same time, you need not memorize things. That's what computers are for. Their memory is now huge, in hundreds of terabytes. Don't worry about memorizing things. Learn things on how to do things. Then you will automatically come to know what are the tools or what are the paths to doing those things. And if you forget, you will refer back to the books or the places you learned and find it very easily. Then follow the right resources. If you do not follow the right resources, if you keep on juggling in the jungle of this knowledge, you will be easily lost. You'll waste time, and you'll also, the worst thing which can happen, and I have seen this happening many times, you lose the appetite to learn. You lose the appetite because you will see, I have seen so many things, but what to learn, where to start from. And mostly when a person teaches a course, he's a very intelligent and well-to-do person in that field. He assumes many things. So he will start from a point where you will find it very difficult to understand. The starting point will itself become a barrier. So choose a path which is easy to start, and follow the resource. And then a very important thing, very less related to what 4 points we saw, but very much important in field of data science. We saw that earlier also. Work on your communication skills. How you communicate your result, how you communicate it to others. Also, if you are good at communication, whatever you will learn, you will teach, you'll share with others. And that way you will learn even further. You will learn even more. Now, how can I help you in this journey? First of all, why will I like to help you? I like to help you for a simple reason, because I'm very passionate about data science, and also I'm very passionate about teaching. Though my job is not that, I'm a marketing professional and I do a very different kind of thing when I'm in my company, in my office. But in my free time, I take out time and opportunity. I grab opportunity to teach. I reach out to people like you and I teach them. And that is also why I wrote this book. And if you read this book, you'll find it in a very conversational way, that the writer is talking to you through the book. That is how I try to approach it. I can help you in your journey by telling you, which I have already done, that Python is a good resource to start with. You can choose to start reading my book. That's not compulsory. I told you there are so many resources available online. You can try that as well. Or you can choose to read my book. Then you can if you choose to read my book, then you can do the exercises, which is after every chapter, to master that knowledge. Not only exercises, all the things which I have given in the book are in practice form. You can type on your computer. It starts from installing the software, how to install the software in your computer. And then the very first step, how to start using the software, how to start typing on that software, how to do basic calculations, and then do small part of programming. Very small kids have already learned from it. They are doing it. I'm confident you can also do that. Do practice and do the practical projects in the book, and you will learn from them. Again, after that, there is peer learning. Peer learning means like you are in a class. You learn from each other. We are in office, we learn from our group. When we were in college, we used to learn from our friends in the college. That is peer learning. You learn from people around you who are like you at your level. When you are learning from a teacher, it's not peer learning. They're teaching you. but you are learning from your colleagues, your friends, that's pure learning. You can join my group of people like you who are learning this. You can simply go to my website and join it for free. All what I'm telling you, I'm not charging for anything, so I'm not marketing any of my stuff. Everything is free for you. You can go to my website, join my group, and share what you are learning, discuss, and grow. Also, you can follow me on my social media platforms and get updates about new resources, technology, and trend. So if you want to see new trends, learn about new technologies, do new things, you can follow me on my social media handles on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. My ID at all the places is the same, Nilab Nishal. You can write @ before that. And also you can visit my website. If you visit my website, on the top of it, you will also have my all social media handles. I'll take 2 minutes time okay, let me interact with you guys. And after that, if we have time, I'll take you through my website once, and you can see what all things you can learn from there. The website is authornilab.com. You can Google it and you'll get it. So guys, that is all I had to share with you in this presentation. And I'll stop sharing my screen now and let us see each other. So guys, that was what I was I planned to tell you people. And now I'm open to your questions and your queries, if any. Feel free to ask anything. There is nothing like a stupid question. Come on, guys.
Sir, first of all, it was a wonderful presentation, and it was
Thank
all,
you,
in a very simple manner you presented with pictures, and, it was very interactive with the audience. And, we could actually understand very well what you exactly wanted. And one question I have is, which are the major universities in India who cater to data science?
Very interesting question. And because this is an upcoming field, many universities are catching up. But I won't name a particular university or college. But if you look at all major universities which are providing with knowledge of engineering or management, mostly they are catering to this now. So major IIMs are now having a course on data science. XLRI, I'm not very sure, but they also might have. Similarly, colleges in Mumbai like Jamnalal Bajaj, SP Jain, major colleges are in one way or another having a course in this. Major international universities are also having, like Kellogg's, MIT, Cambridge. All of them are having courses on data science and machine learning. And many of them have now started master's degree in this. That's a 2 years program or 1 year program specially dedicated to that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am. Or if the parents are there, they can also feel free to ask. No problem there.
You can use the chat box also.
About the machine learning and artificial intelligence are the one that is going to take over in the future. So what about machine and everything? Because even machines are connected to technology, but then once I read an article about it, it says that artificial intelligence have more chances of becoming more efficient in the future.
Efficient, right?
Yes.
There are also articles about they becoming evil. So there are different viewpoints of this. And this is not me talking. The very eminent personalities in business and science have been debating over this for a long time. But this is again like any other scientific tool in the hand of mankind. Say, for example, gun or any weapon. We can use it for our protection in constructive way, and the same weapon can be used for destruction as well. There have been movies, there have been controversial theories about machine learning, that machines will take over the world. I do not know about the future, but they are very interesting theories and good movies. I enjoyed them. About the point of machines becoming intelligent, they are already becoming intelligent. They are already doing the things which only human beings could have done few years back. Some examples. Now a machine can paint Mona Lisa. And trust me, when I say paint, I do not mean print. You can print a picture of Mona Lisa from your computer, that is fine. But a machine like a robotic hand can paint Mona Lisa now. That is just by looking at the figure. They can, okay, Mona Lisa is a painting they looked at and painted. Machines are now sketching, making new drawings from their imagination. That is machine learning. Machines are learning to do so many things in the industry, like automotive cars, as we discussed. Cars are driving themselves. Then you also must have seen videos of small dogs, robotic dogs in Amazon office. Those are all things which are using robotic machine brain. So these are not things of very far future. They are already here. Machine learning is already paving a big part in industrial revolution of the future.
Okay, so is there a chance of teleportation happening in this world?
Well, that's a thing of fantasy. I do not know, and I'm not capable or in the smart enough to answer that question.
Okay, sir. But
Teleportation
thank
is
you.
something-
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Sir, there's a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
Can I just read
Is
it for
it
you?
necessary? Someone has
Yeah.
asked, is it necessary that the students who are taking a course in 12th grade with maths can only go for a data science, and children who take other subjects can also switch on to this field? Oh, this is a very pertinent question, Preetha. Now, the thing is, I told you maths is important for data science and machine learning. There's no escaping that. But at the same time, companies like Google, companies like Microsoft, companies like Amazon are now hiring people even without a college degree. So they are two different things. Knowing something and having a degree for that are two different things. So if you do not have 12th in your maths in your 12th class, but if you are curious, if you have common sense, and if you know how to communicate well, plus you can learn basic arithmetics and some statistics, you can very well do in machine learning and data science. The field is very vast open for you. But yes, you need to learn part of maths for that.
Sir, in teaching field, how we can introduce data science to the students and from which class onwards?
Data science as a subject, I don't know, will be introduced in the school very early, because it involves programming, it involves know-how of basic computer programming. So it can become an extension to what is already being taught. Like from a very early days now, computer programming is being taught. But unfortunately, what I see, my child is also in primary school. What I see is kids are being taught programming for the sake of showing that they know programming, not the real thing. Python or similar easy languages can be introduced to kids in very simple modular way from the very early age. Not very difficult programming, but easy programming, so that they can learn actual programming and get interested in that. And the extension of that can be introduction of data science and further going into machine learning if they want that. The 11th or 12th can be the earliest point where data science and machine learning courses can be introduced, in my opinion. But learning of programming can start as early as class, say 5th or 6th. My daughter is in class 4th, and she has already started learning Python with me, and she's almost finished half the book. So I'm not bragging, I'm sharing because she's a child. She's doing it on her own free will and finding it easy. So you can also do it much easily. She's not a very intelligent girl, by the way. So you can do it.
Any more queries?
Please, can you send your website information? Okay, I'll write my website. I'll chat here. Shared my website link in the chat box, and all related informations are available. Also, I like to share one thing, that I just finished a class of data science and Python and programming basics, and the video of that is available on YouTube, and the links and even the video is available on my website. So you can read the book and you can see those videos, explanation side by side. It will not similar to, I'm going a bit ahead of myself. It will be close to a teacher teaching you. If I have 2 minutes time, I can just share my screen once more and show you my website quickly. So this is my website, authornilab.com, and this is my homepage. This is the information of the class we had. So you'll have information about the book and also about the basics of the course we just had. Then You will have all those videos over here. You can click and watch this video over here, and also you can choose to go to YouTube. If you open this video, you can go to YouTube and see this video here. And you can go in YouTube and watch this video there. So all this video is available. Apart from that, on the top right corner here, if you want to follow me, you can go on any of these links and follow me on that place. Yes, one very important information I forgot to tell. All the codes, all the programs which I have used in my book, they are also available for anyone who wants to access them. Whether you have my book or not doesn't matter. You can access those programs only on this website. This is called GitHub. If you click on this link, if you follow my mouse, on the first link, the small cat kind of link, if you click there, you'll go to GitHub, and there all my codes are there. Feel free to use them. But a very pertinent suggestion, do not use copy paste. Watch that, type it yourself, then only you'll learn it properly. So you can go have a look at one of the dashboards I made in my blogs. If you click it, you can go to an interactive dashboard I made from scratch. You can also have details about my book, and these are the platforms where it is available. I hope I'm not sounding like a marketeer over here. Some information about me, some testimonials and all those things which you can explore on your own free time. That was a glimpse of the website.
So thank you so much, sir. So at this outset, I would like to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Ashoka World School. Thank you once again to all those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar, especially our resource person, Neelab Nishal. Sir, the presentation was very, very easy to understand and very effective. I think our students surely benefited from the session. We could see this excitement in the students. They were asking questions, and all this interaction was very good to see. So all have benefited. Thank you so much for such a great presentations, and we are really enlightened with your knowledge and your presence. I would also like to thank all the teaching faculties of Ashoka World School and all the other teachers who have joined us, all the parents, and especially all our students who actively took part in these presentations. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll also like to take this opportunity to thank you all these participants. It meant a lot. You spent your time with me. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to thank principal of this school, Jaya Mangalam, and the CEO director, Adarsh Kavungal-ji. I like to express my gratitude to give me this opportunity. All your teaching staff, I'm sorry I couldn't recall all your names, but it's so wonderful to interact with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Neelab. Thank you so much.